It was already approaching 10 at night. Oh, oops. I didn't do introductions. Screw introductions. I'm
Everybody
Umineko.
knows who we are by now.
I'm Umineko, and I'm here with,
Ushiromi Akinzo.
yes. And it was already...
Oh, Beatrice.
It was already approaching 10 at night. The typhoon had already twice in a row, engulfed Rakenjima. Even though the rose garden that had already looked so beautiful during the day was now already being beaten down upon by the fierce winds and resisting with all its might, undulating and trying to keep the flowers from already blowing away. Heading for the guest house through the rose garden, led by Shannon, were Battler, who was holding up an umbrella, Jessica, and Mario, who was sleeping on George's shoulder.
Guest house くらい俺たちだけでも行けるってのにいいんだぜシャノンちゃん戻って休んでてくれよ
いいえお送りするのも仕事ですので
The sound's okay for you, right? Cool.
親族会議中はうちのお母さんとか源氏さんもピリピリしてるからな下手に私たちが気を利かせるとシャノンがサボってると勘違いされちゃう
They're on edge?
Well, I mean, I guess the whole, like, saying that Kinzo is dead thing, and the whole debate going on.
It put Genji on edge, too?
Oh, maybe, did we miss something, or?
I don't think so. I guess just...
We've been stuck in Angie land for, like...
We have. For, like, years.
Yeah. It's kind of weird to come back to this, actually.
Wow, yeah, you're right. It's been a while.
そうだね素直にお世話になった方がむしろ迷惑をかけないだろうねありがとうシャノンいいえ確かにお嬢様のおっしゃられます通り今日のお屋敷はピリピリしていますだから私も皆さんとご一緒して外の空気が吸えるのでちょっと
Get a room!
わざわざ俺たち子供を追い出すくらいだから相当タチの悪い話をするんだろうぜ
It's my goal. No, it's my goal.
だろうね僕たちはきっと何の力にもなれないせめて邪魔をしないようにするのが一番の協力だと思うよ
It's my seven sisters. No, it's my seven sisters.
どうせまた金って話だろう
I've
ぜ
never seen that before. As like an
普段
exclamation.
散々金持ちだと不意調してるくせにいざとなったらもったいぶりやがる
Having and hauling.
パーッと気前よくみんなで山分けすりゃいいのによ
そりゃ豪快な話だぜ
Masaka.
俺にも分け前がもらえりゃいいのによもし俺にももらえたらそん時はシャノンちゃんにも分けてやるからな
That's a quality tout she's got going on there.
Battler, George, you better watch out.
Yeah.
どうもありがとうございますお気持ちだけで嬉しいです
Because
シャ
George
ノン
is
は
loaded.
欲がないね
George pulls out a shotgun and points at
買いたい
it.
ものがいっぱいあるだろうに
I meant loaded with money, but loaded with shotguns works too.
Oh. That's where my mind went right away.
Oh.
でも私欲しいものの中にお金で買えるものがありませんので
Love? Love can be bought with money.
Can it though?
Well, rich guys,
Well, I mean, is that love though?
yeah, that's true. That's just people wanting money.
That's
無
just
欲
gold
だ
digging.
な俺なんか欲しいもん全部並べたら金がいくらあっても足りねえぜ
お金で買えるものにはだぜシャノンの言う金で買えない欲しいものって何かなジョージ兄さんは心当たりある
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
さあなんだろうね
I want a daughter.
シャノンじゃないとわからないね
私にもわかりません
George and Shannon looked down with their faces red. Battler had also heard the details, so he knew what Jessica was teasing them about.
ジョージの兄貴は
俺にとっても尊敬できるお人だ。
Man, it's so nice to be in a jovial mood again, reading these.
Yeah, it's gonna be ruined in about 10 minutes by something.
I don't know. We had two pretty depressing chapters last time, so maybe this will be better.
シャノンちゃんは本当に
I
い
don't
い人
have
と
much
巡り合
hope
えた
for
と
that,
思うぜ。
but we'll see.
私もジョージ兄さんなら安心してシャノンを任せられ
からかうのはよ、僕たちにとっては真面目な問題なんだ。それよりジェシカちゃんの方だってどうなんだい？
Yeah, Jessica.
カノン君と少しは仲良くなれたのかい？
お前、カノン君とそういう仲なのかよ。
Battler, have you seen Maria?
汚いぜジョージ兄さん。そういう話の切り返し方は汚いぜ。
As they had an animated discussion with its ups and downs, the four kids headed towards the guest house. The annual family conference was extremely important to the Shiromiya family, and this year in particular seemed like it was going to be especially so. Apparently, the family head Kinzo was personally going to be making a very serious announcement, and everyone other than the adults had been strictly ordered to leave the mansion. Battler hadn't attended the family conference in 6 years, so he hadn't really noticed, but according to Jessica, there seemed to be a very tense atmosphere tonight, completely different from a normal year. Common sense made it clear that Kinzo, whose remaining life was short, was already dead, was going to make some big announcement about the succession of the head and the distribution of his fortune.
しかし驚いたな。まさか本当にじい様が登場するとは。
なるほど。これが魔女の反撃というわけね。
Bring out the body of Kinzo.
金蔵というジョーカーはもう少し伏せていたかったところだが、そろそろ切るのが頃合いであろう。
What? Natsui? What is this? What is this distinct smell? Oh, Kraus, I have no idea. It smells like something's burning. Let's go down and see what it is. Ah! It's a walking corpse, and it's all burnt up. I am Shiromiya Kinzo, and I am Crispy Kinzo.
Crispy Kinzo.
You may call me Crispy Kinzo, and the fortune belongs to Martia now.
Why does Kinzo sound like Yoda?
I do not know.
切り札は
Gold I
切る
give
ため
you.
にある。
Inheritance!
くそ。じい様は最初から死んでて、その代わりに謎の18人目が紛れ込んでるっていう俺の推理は、ここに来ていきなりバッサリってわけか。
いつかはそなたが金蔵を疑いに来ることは読めておったわ。さあさあ、これでそなたの再びゼロに戻ったぞ。金蔵は最初から死んでいて、その代わりにわらわが18人目として紛れ込んでいたという推理はこれでパーだ。
Bada.
くすだがくじけねえぞ。一つの推理が外れただけだ。嵐のように暴風のように襲いかかってやる。
Tornado Battler.
そうでなくてはな、そうでなくては。まだまだ第一の晩祭始まっていないぞ。屈服にはあまりに早すぎる。
そうね。そして赤き真実で否定されたわけで、今この瞬間の時点でまだバトラの説は破られたわけではない。勝ったつもりになるのも早すぎるわよ。
But it won't be defeated till the very end if it is defeated, because she's not using it anymore until the very end.
そう確かにあっさり鵜呑みにするにはまだ早いな。じい様がいよいよ登場すると、やっぱり体調が悪くなった云々言って現れない可能性だってある。
I'm still waiting for the walking char mess. Mess of chars.
Zombie Kinzo.
Crispy Kinzo.
じい様は本当は死んで
Crispy
いるとい
Kinzo
う
is
事
best
実。
Kinzo.
クラウスおじさんがギリギリまで苦し紛れで引き伸ばしているだけかもしれない。
なるほどなるほど。そういう考え方もある。
Naruto.
好きにするがよい。すぐに決着、すぐにな。
What are we gonna see now? All of the relatives of Nanjo could be seen in the dining hall. Nanjo sat alone quietly watching the wind and rain outside. Kraus was sitting in the seat of his own rank with Natsui standing motionlessly at his side. All the other siblings and their partners were gathered at the opposite end of the long table whispering to each other.
そりゃ本当か。
ええ、マリアは傘をくれた人物をお父様だというのよ。
What? Nani?
Okay, alright, so this all happened. Still. The whole Maria searching for the rose and someone giving her an umbrella. But instead of Beatrice being the one to give it to her, it's Kinzo.
Well, that's just simple. The witch is the person that's pretending to be Beatrice, was pretending to be Beatrice, she is now pretending to be Kinzo. Maybe.
なんちゅうことや。ということはつまりわしらの作戦は根底から崩れたっちゅうわけか。
作戦も何もお父様が健在で自ら発表があると言った以上、もう兄さんとのくだらない駆け引きは一切不要だわ。
だな。クソ親父め。もったいぶらずにとっとと現れてくれりゃよかったんだ。おかげで俺たちは兄貴と無駄に揉めただけだ。
それを試したかったのかもね。血のつながってない私が言うのもなんだけど、あなたたちのお父様かなり頭はいいわよ。日中のやりとりは多分使用人の誰かに聞かれてお父様に報告されてたのよ。なんてこと。お父様の遺産が目当てで騒いでることはもうバレバレってことじゃない。ああ、なんてことよ。
Ava held her head, uncharacteristically dejected. If, as Curie said, this had been Kinzo's design from the beginning, they were fucked. A huge setup spread over more than a year in a bid to find the siblings' true natures. Then they had fallen for it completely.
お父さんの耳に入ったとまだ決まったわけやない。
いいえ、入ってるに決まってるわ。兄さん以外の全員がお父様は死んでいると言い切り、お父様の健在を信じなかった。ああ、もう終わりだわ。お父様は宣言するのよ。兄さんこそが跡継ぎで、私たちには片翼を身にまとう資格もないと宣告するのよ。
That doesn't seem like a very Kinzo thing to do.
姉さん、しっかり。
Kinzo's gonna come out and say nobody deserves it, and he's gonna give it to Beatrice.
You know what? Give it to Genji.
ローザさん。
Kinzo's gonna come out with a shotgun just shooting people in the face. He's like, this was Beatrice the other time, so no, it's me, because all of you were worthless.
マリアちゃんは本当にお父様に
I
傘を
don't
もらっ
think
た
he
のか
has the
しら。
strength to do that, does he?
Maybe, maybe not.
どういう意味？マリアちゃんはお父様に会ったかもしれない。でも私たちは会ってないわ。マリアちゃんがそうだと主張しているだけよ。
そんな、マリアが嘘をついてるというの？
落ち着けよローズ。マリアちゃんが嘘をつくとは言ってねえ。だがマリアちゃんは素直な子だろ。例えばだが源氏さんあたりがこの傘はおじい様からマリア様に渡すように言われましたみたいなことを言ったら、マリアちゃんは親父に会ったわけでなくてもおじい様に傘をもらったって言うかもしれねえぜ。
That's actually really good thinking.
そうね。
Let's see that again. If Genji... I don't know. I don't think Maria would be that stupid. Maybe she would, though.
I don't know if it's a matter of being stupid or not. I think it's a matter of, like, semantics. Like, you know, she could say that Genji gave her the umbrella on order of Kinzo, but she could also say that Kinzo gave it to her indirectly, you know, like...
Then they should just go ask her, right?
Yeah. But I don't know if they'll do that.
Probably won't, because they're lame.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they're dumb and stupid.
その手が考えられるわ。
Yes.
だがな、マリアちゃんはこう言ったんやろ。 おじい様がやってきて傘を渡してくれたと。
ええ、そう言ったわ。おじい様から直接受け取ったとはっきり言ったわ。
Well, there goes that theory.
直接か。お手上げだな。
下手な考え、休むに似たりとはよく言ったものだわ。
What do you think's gonna happen? I want to hear your thoughts, predictions.
I honestly have no idea, man.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm just kind of riding it right now, seeing where it takes us.
ちょっと考えてみたら、傘がどうこうなんてどうでもいい問題だわ。
Yeah, it's all irrelevant. Kinzo's dead.
どうしてよ。マリアちゃんが兄さんに買収されて、あたかもお父様が健在であるかのように嘘を頼まれたかもしれないで。母さんが確かにお父様から渡されたなんて証拠どこにもありはしない。
マリアちゃんが誰から傘をもらっていい、あるいは傘なんかそもそももらっていなかったとしても、お父様はもうじき現れる。現れたお父様の前に傘の問題なんて全くどうでもいいこと、つまり傘の問題が取り沙汰されるのはそうでない場合ということよ。
When he doesn't appear.
そうでない場合ってのは何のことだ。
そうか。わかったで。キリエさんが言いたいのはこういうことやろ。お父さんもうすぐ出会ってくることになっとるが、また難癖をつけて結局現れん可能性がまだ残ってるっちゅうことやろ。
そうか。そうよね。私たちの追求に兄さんが苦し紛れの時間稼ぎでお父様が現れると出任せを言ったのかもしれない。やっぱりお父様はすでに亡くなっていて、兄さんは今なおまだ健在であると嘘をつき続けている。
つまりお父様が現れれば全ての策は通用しない、考える必要もない。私たちは訴状の魚、運を天に任せてお父様との直接交渉に臨むしかないわ。それこそ土下座とげんこつを覚悟してお金を無心するしかない。でも逆にお父様が現れなければ私たちの当初の作戦は何も揺るがない。
なるほど。つまりどっちに転ぼうとも今さらあたふたする必要は何もないってことね。
そういうこと。お父様が現れれば本来の親族会議が行われるだけの話。現れなければ私たちは引き続きクラウス兄さんを追求すればいいだけの話なの。
お父さんの機嫌が急に悪くなってみたいなクラウスさんの言い逃れを決して許さんようにせんとな。
どうやら私たちが本当に検討すべきは、
Is
兄さんがどんな策を弄してこの場をごまかそうとしてくるかよ。往生際の悪さは私が一番よく知っているわ。
he's gonna come out dressed as Kinzo. He does sort of Kinzo's build.
He does. I would like to see that actually.
お父様がお元気なら私たちは土下座してお金を無心し、クラウス兄さんの茶番だったなら私たちは醜い兄弟喧嘩を再開し、今年も素敵な親族会議になりそうね。
だな。下手な考え、休むに似たりってわけか。もうじき22時だな。兄貴に催促して。
I no longer have any respect for Rizzo, by the way.
Yeah.
Fucking child abuser. Rodolph and the rest looked at Kraus. Firmly seated, he looked like he was awaiting Kinzo's arrival with an air of composure. They couldn't tell whether that was really composure or whether he was scheming about how to tie together his life.
あなた、
落ち着きなさい。もう今さらジタバタしても始まろう。源氏さんに任せよう。
もうじき10時ですね。
That was the time that had been set for tonight's family conference to open. And in addition, it was also the time that the Ushirame family had needed to appear. Right then, they heard the sound of footsteps approaching from the hall. There were multiple sets.
Oh.
Natsui jerked her head up with a start. But there came the sound of a knock and her expression filled with disappointment, because Kinzo probably wouldn't have knocked.
失礼いたします。
Oh. Mackerel?
戸締まりの見回りが終わりました。
It was Goda and Kumasawa.
Never been more disappointed to see them in my life.
Really?
Yeah.
Why? You thought it was...
I thought something was gonna happen. I thought maybe Genji was going to bring Kinzo out, but...
Unlike the physically fit Goda, it was rare for Kumasawa with her old body to still be tasked with work this late. Of course, Krauss also seemed to know that.
ご苦労だった。こんな時間まで申し訳ないね、熊沢さん。
いいえ、こう見えてもまだまだ夜更かしは得意でございますの。
熊沢についてだけは立ち会いを外させても良いのでは。さすがに体に応えるでしょう。
使用人も全員揃えろとの命令だ。逆らえん。
Tonight's family conference was clearly different from a normal one. On a normal year, no one is able to attend the family conference except for the relatives. It would have been inconceivable for any servants to be present. But this year was different. They had been told to have all the servants in attendance for the family conference. Of course, they would not be allowed to speak. They were there as observers. Just what in the world was going to happen that needed 5 servants to observe? Even Krauss didn't know. This room, Kinzo brings out all his torture devices.
just starts throwing people in.
Into his torture chamber.
Got one of those like stretch things.
One of those things that rips people's fingernails off.
Oh god.
徹夜はこう見えても強いんですよ。旦那様もサバをもりもり食べれば、夜ももっとたくましくなれますよ。
Mackerel.
なるほど。まだまだお元気でおられる。
There's always mackerel in me.
100歳になっても元気でお勤めに違いない。
奥様、勝手ながら軽食の準備をさせていただきました。いつでも配膳できますので。
ありがとう。やはりあなたは他の皆さんにコーヒーのおかわりを勧めてください。
かしこまりました。
After bowing slightly, Goda took the pot towards the relatives gathered at the other end of the table. As he did, more footsteps approached from the hallway. A single set. They were light. Even before the knock, they could imagine who it was. Shannon.
失礼いたします。
Nice.
お子様方をゲストハウスへお送りいたしました。
Best girl has arrived.
ご苦労でした。今夜は特別な晩です。緊張感を欠かさないように。
はい、かしこまりました、奥様。
So now we're waiting on Genji, Cannon, and oh, just Cannon and Genji, huh? Genji, accompanied by Cannon, had gone to meet Kinzo. There was still no sign of their return. The hands of the clock were creeping past 10. Once sure of that, Ava spoke to Krauss.
兄さん、もう時間だけれども、親族会議、まだ始まらないのかしら？
主賓の到着が遅れている。しばらく待ちたまう。
いつまで？悪いけど、時間を切ってもらうわよ。お父様がなかなか来ないなんてのを延々と続けて、夜明けまで待たされたらたまらないわ。
親父殿のお越しになる時間を私が約束などできるものか。何を焦っているのだね。まずはコーヒーでも飲んで落ち着かんかね。
I want some coffee now.
俺たちは親族会議のために集まってるん茶番じゃない。あと30分は待つ。だがそれでダメなら書斎に押しかけさせてもらうぜ。
Good for you.
押しかけるとは当主様への敬いにあまりにも欠ける行為です。そうよね。ごめんなさい。あと30分はおとなしくしてるわ。30分後にも同じ笑いが浮かべられるか楽しみだわ。
I'm on edge. Something has to happen.
親父殿が死んでいると。
それを今さら議論する気はないわ。お父様がここにやってくればいいだけの話。兄さんを言いまかす必要なんて。
後宮家当主は正当なる人間へ。お前が何の策を浪したところで 何も抗えんよ。もちろん私もな。
何をわけのわかんないことを。今まで散々自分こそが次期当主だと威張ってきたくせに。
お前の言葉をそのまま返そう。それを今さら議論する気はないね。親父殿がやってきて自らの口でそれを宣言すればいいだけの話だ。お前を言いまかす必要などどこにもない。だったか。
Caress casually turned Ava's words back on her. Of course, that poured fuel on Ava's anger, but it didn't ignite, because in that instant, the sound of a very loud knock rang out. Oh shit. Genji? Is that you? Both Genji and Kanon were usually very reserved when they knocked. They wouldn't hit the door with such a violent strength. It was like a judge's gavel slamming down on a call to order. So everyone fell quiet. The door opened slightly and Genji showed himself. Then he spoke with a solemn tone different from his usual one. It wasn't the tone he used when carrying out his duties. It was the tone he used when speaking for Kinzo himself. So just by hearing Genji speak like that, the siblings were struck with a sudden tension. At those words, the dining hall fell into a complete silence, and everyone rushed back to their designated seats. They were like students who had been making a lot of noise just before homeroom, hurriedly returning to their seats when the teacher came. It might have even felt humorous, but there was no way anyone would joke about it. Everyone sat in order, and Shannon, Goda, and Kumasawa stood up straight in a row by the wall.
栄光ある後宮家の当主にして金色に輝ける六軒島の領主後宮金蔵卿のおなりであります。
And of the double doors into the dining hall, Genji opened the right door from the inside, and Kanon opened the left door from the outside. It's
Kanon.
Ooh,
hey!
Beatrice! And welcomed by the deepest of bows from the two servants, with his cape fluttering majestically, Kinzo appeared. Were you expecting this?
I was thinking they were gonna fake us out, but here he is.
Is this actually Kinzo, though?
I don't know, I guess we'll find out.
Kinzo's gait had a dignified weight to it, and it was very hard to believe that he had been diagnosed as having not much time left to live. And then he exploded into butterflies now. Genji pulled back Kinzo's seat and motioned for him to sit. But Kinzo remained standing, signaling with its chin for Genji to move back.
Yokoso Shokun, 六軒島へ。何を怯えた顔をしておるのか、エヴァ。
そんな怯えてるなんて。
This is like the first time we've ever heard him talk to these people.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
His own children.
お父様が大変お元気そうなので、ほっとしただけで。
エヴァ、お前は相変わらず面白いな。クラウスとの賭けに負けて悔しいと素直に言えばよいのに。言えないよな。
Ava realized that their conversation during the day had indeed been an open book to Kinzo, and she turned red as she hung her head.
さてと、我が息子たち娘たち、お前たちの就寝している我が財産と当主の継承について、今宵は重要な発表をしようと思う。まず最初に。
Let us dine.
私はひどく失望していることを伝えようと思う。
Knew it had to happen.
それは今日まで誰にもあの碑文の謎を解くことができなかったということだ。
Ava Beatrice did, but you didn't see that.
Yeah.
Even though Kinzo said he was disappointed, a condescending smile, as though there was no way the likes of them could have solved it, rose to his face as he cast an eye over each and every one of them.
私はあれを解けた者に全てを譲り渡すつもりでいた。しかし今日までに誰も解くことができず、我が全ては誰にも継承されることなく、情けない。お前たちの中にそれを受け継ぐ資格を持つ人間が現れなかったことが。
Crazy-eyed Kinzo.
私は心底残念であり、そして情けなく。
It's so pathetic, I find it hilarious. The siblings hung their heads in silence. Of course, they would have solved it if they could. They had blown their chance, and none of them could deny that, but even so, it was just so hard a riddle.
よって、私は非分の謎にて、我が継承者を選ぶことを、ここに中止することを宣言する。
And what are you gonna do?
つまりはタイムオーバー。
Time's up. Everybody dies.
Yeah.
End of chapter 4.
What a shame for all of you. I don't like the sound of that.
お前たちには等しく公平にチャンスがあったはずなのに、それが今ここについえた。
It truly sounded like Kinzo was making a victory proclamation.
ならば。当主は長男のクラウスに継承されるのか？
ない。
答えはノーである。わかっているよな、クラウス。お前には確かに次期当主という肩書きを与えた。
The roast of the centuries here.
だが、お前はそれに溺れただけだ。
And this is a different kind of roast than the roast we've seen in the other chapter, by the way.
Yeah. It's very much,
Kinzo's not the one being roasted this time.
Hey!
Hey!
次期当主というのはどういう意味かわかるか？
お父さんの後を継ぐという意味です。
違う！次期当主というのは当主が約束されたものではない。いいかクラウス、二度と教えないからよく聞けよ。次期当主と自分以外にも当主を狙う奴がいたら、その花を徹底的にへし折って二度と逆らえないようにしてやる奴のことを言う。これは何も当主だけのことではない。金についても言える。金持ちというのは金を持っている奴のことではない。自分より金を持っている奴全てを叩き潰し、そして誰よりも金をかき集められる奴の才能も同じ。天才とは才能に秀でた奴のことではない。自分より秀でた奴を全て叩き潰し、自分を天才と全ての人間に呼ばせることを力とカリスマで強要できる奴を、お前はその全てにおいて勘違いしている。だから次期当主の器ではないのだよ。
勉強になります。
Now I've learned.
Yeah.
Perhaps that was precisely Kinzo's philosophy. Though it could have been also taken for a rant, it was as a result of faithfully carrying out that philosophy of his that Kinzo had raised the Ushirome family to such prosperous heights. It may have been hard to imagine after his immersion in the cold in recent years, but it was that brutal aggressiveness that was Ushirome's Kinzo's charisma and aura.
このような不甲斐ないクラウスに後ろ宮家の全てを継承する資格などない。ならばエヴァ、ルドルフ、ローザの3人にはあるのか？
No!
これもノーである。非分の謎を解けず、さりとてクラウスを引きずり下ろす策も浪せず、 お前たちにできたのは3人寄せ集めで共同戦線を張ってクラウスから金をせびろうとしたことだけ。しかもその策も浅はかそのもの。クラウス一人を追い詰めることさえできやしな。情けないことこの上なし。次期当主の座をどんなことをしてでも奪い取ろうという貪欲さが足りぬ。欲しいもののためにはいかなる犠牲も払い、どこまでも貪欲となるべし、強欲となるべし。幸運の女神は貪欲なる者にこそ微笑む。その野生の精神がないお前たち3人にクラウス同様に継承の資格などありはしない。
Abe and the rest had no words to respond with, and they couldn't figure out what it was that Kinzo was about to say. Was Kinzo actually planning to proclaim that no one would succeed the head? If so, that would work to Ava, Rudolph, and Rosa's advantage. Because the only thing the siblings would ultimately need to do is coordinate everything between them after Kinzo's death and split the inheritance evenly. On the contrary, if a specific person's name was raised and proclaimed to be the one to succeed the head, that would surely be more troublesome. But would Kinzo really say something that would benefit any of the 4 siblings after lambasting them so much?
まさか誰にも引き継がないからと財産をすべて慈善団体にでも寄付するとか言い出すんじゃないでしょうね。
No.
お父様ならやりかねないという恐怖はあるわ。
頭に血が上ってるだけさ。しばらくは聞き流すしかね
え。では大父さん、次期当主についてはどういうお考えをお持ちですか？
お前たちに完全に失望した以上、私は誰に引き継ぐ気も失った。
I'm just gonna live forever.
よって後ろ宮家はこれで終わる。
Oh
shit.
私の代で終わりだ。
そういうわけには。
後ろ宮家などあの震災の時にとっくに滅んでおるわ。今の後ろ宮家など私がつかの間だけ見ている黄金の幻想に過ぎぬのだ。私が夢より覚めれば終わる程度のもの。
One question we've never really thought about is how did he get all that gold in the first place?
Yeah, we still don't know. I mean, we have the legend, but
there's
no
witches aren't real.
Isn't real, then how
do you get the gold?
この世などすべては夢、幻、生など死という目覚めの前には白チュームと同じよ。ああ、そうだ。元よりそうだったのだ。私が死ぬ時に全てを失うのがベアトリーチェとの契約、そして呪い。さあ行くか、ベアトリーチェ。お前を捕らえるのはこの私だ。今宵それは現実となるだろう。
For a while, Kinzo was overcome with cackling and his eyes bulged. Whenever he talked about Beatrice, he was always eloquent and filled with obsession.
お前たちのような愚かなる息子たちなどまさに白昼。初めからいなかったも同然よ。消えろ、覚めろ。真実の私のまどろみと共に消え去ってしまう。私を継承するに値する何者も築き上げてこなかった出来損ない。
金蔵さん、よろしいか
な。何か我が友よ。
Naja nervously raised his hand, asking to speak. Kinzo permitted it.
金蔵さんの気持ちもわかる。子供たちを愛するがゆえに大きな期待を寄せ、それゆえに期待を裏切られたような気持ちに同じく子供や孫を持つ身としてよくわかります。しかし金蔵さんは非凡だ、天才だ。そんな金蔵さんに追いついて当然というんではちょいとひどすぎるんじゃないかね。 それでもそんな金蔵さん、クラウスさんもエヴァさんもルドルフさんもローザさんも、そしてその伴侶の皆さんもよく頑張っています。
And now he's gonna start screaming about best? What do you mean best? Probably.
Yeah, that's their best. It's not good enough.
よく頑張ってどの程度の金を稼ぎ上げたというのか。事業にことごとく失敗して借金を抱え、未だに私のすねをかじろうという間抜けどものどこがよく頑張っていると言えるのか。
And how much money did you actually build up? You were gifted that money by a witch or something.
この世のすべては金として結晶しているのだ。それがつかめぬということはこの世を掴んでおらぬということ。魂がこの世をしっかり掴んでおらぬということは生きるに値せぬということだ。消えろ。我が生と現実から消え去ってしまえ。
それは暴論です。その理論から言ったら私だって生きていてはいけないことになる。そんな私でも金蔵さんと過ごしたチェスの時間は共に価値あるものだったと信じていますぞ。世の中お金で買えないものもたくさんあることを金蔵さん自身が誰よりもご存知のはずだ。
As the siblings motionlessly hung their heads, they cheered Nanjo on inside their hearts. Not one of the siblings could offer their opinion to Kinzo in a rage, but Nanjo alone was allowed to as Kinzo's close friend. Even though Kinzo had raged so fiercely after being admonished by Nanjo, he nodded several times as though in agreement. His surprisingly docile side might have seemed cute, but there was no one who could laugh.
確かに息子さんたちは金蔵さんほどの財は築き上げられなかったかもしれない。まあそれでも私から見れば羨ましいほどのお金持ちではありますがな。しかしお金だけでなくお金では買えないたくさんのものを築き上げました。それについて言えば金蔵さんにも負けないくらいです。
ほう、お金で買えぬ何を積み上げたというのか。
幸せです。
Happiness, that's a good one.
I mean, you know, the old saying is that money can't buy happiness, but if you don't have money, there's no way that you're really happy.
Well, what I'm saying is none of them even seem happy to begin with.
Yeah, that's also true. I mean, on the surface they might appear happy, but... Although, it's kind of hard to say, because, I mean, like, Hideyoshi and Eva have a really good relationship. And
that's true.
I firmly believe that, like, they are happy together.
Yeah.
Kyrie and Rudolph, too.
I don't think Rose is happy at all.
No. No, I wouldn't say so.
Family, yes, they have family.
彼らは素晴らしい伴侶を見つけ、子を産み、それぞれの幸せな家庭を築かれ。
They've definitely made homes.
あなたの一族を繁栄させ、そして
Sometimes they're not always in that home for days at a time.
私たち年寄りは私たちには見ることもかなわぬ新しき時代を生きるだろう若き。それは老境の唯一の楽しみではありません。思い出しなさい、金蔵さん。彼らが初めて孫を連れて帰ってくれた時の喜びを息子さんたちは、そして孫たちは金蔵さんの偉業を後の世まで伝え模範としてくれることでしょう。それはお金がいくらあろうとも孤独なる身にはなせぬことです。
The siblings all nodded in agreement. Certainly there had been a time when Kinzo had looked at his newly born grandchildren with happiness in his eyes, back when he still had some sanity in his heart. However, was there any human warmth still left inside Kinzo's heart?
それはつまり、私が成した巨万の富の代わりに、金を儲ける代わりに、孫を儲けたと、そういうわけか。
いえいえ、そういう意味では。
私が稼ぎ上げた数百億という財産の代わりに息子たちは一人ずつ孫を設けたというわけか。 それは素晴らしい。つまりは100億を投じて命を一つ生み出したと、そういうわけだ。これは面白い。錬金術的に考えて実に面白い例えではないか。ほう、なんと価値ある孫たちなのか。素晴らしい、素晴らしい。そうなのか、クラウス。お前の娘には100億の価値があるというのか。
Oh no.
Wow.
Ah!
Come on, man.
Kraus couldn't answer instantly. It wasn't that he didn't have confidence in his daughter, it was because he didn't have a clue what Kinzo was trying to test with this question. But when Natsuo was then pressed for an answer, she responded, breaking Kraus' silence with an answer of her own interpretation.
はい、ジェシカは100億のお金を積まれても手放せない娘です。その意味において、お金では数えられない価値があると信じています。
ほう、100億の価値があると言い切るか。ほうほう、エヴァはどうか。お前のところのジョージはどうだ。
Given the way that Natsuo had chosen to answer, there was naturally no doubt as to what Ava's answer would be. Even though Ava should have known better than to respond to this kind of provocative question, she did so as well.
お父様、ジョージには100億の、いいえ、それ以上の価値があります。それはお金で買えないという抽象的な意味ではありません。
He's literally worth trillions of dollars.
ジョージは必ずや自らの価値に等しいだけの財産を築き上げるでしょう。
I believe that.
お父様の偉業を継ぐにふさわしい孫となるはずです。
Ava sent a glance at Hideyoshi and Natsui that said, like a fiddle. After hearing Ava's answer, Natsui was about to add more praise for her daughter, but stopped at a glare from Kraus.
なるほど。ならばルドルフはどうか。お前のところのバトラはどうだというのか。
うちのバトラはジョージ君に比べられちゃ威張れることは何もね。誘拐されて身代金を100億よこせと脅されたらのしをつけて進呈したい程度のやつでは。
Wow. Battler just got sold down the river.
Yeah.
さらにバカで無鉄砲だ。
There's gonna be a big qualifier.
できるわけもねえことを語り出す。その一点においてはバカ100億人分に匹敵する大バカだろうさ。バカもできねえ凡人どもが100億人束になってもできねえことをきっとあいつはやり出すだろうよ。ま、俺はどうせ解けるだろうとは思ってる。世の中は甘くねえ。しかし奴の人生は干渉して愉快なものになるだろうことだけは疑ってみよ
うぜ。Ava clicked her tongue at the clever style of speech that would probably match Kinzo's taste. Apparently Rudolph had been after this himself. He grinned back at her.
マリアはどうか。
マリアは私の可愛いたった一人の娘です。
Who I hate.
Who I scream at and hit constantly.
And break all her toys.
Yep.
お金の価値で測れるものではありません。それだけです。
なるほど。夢と未来、奇跡と可能性は我が魔力の源泉だ。希望をなくしていかなる魔法も力を持ちはすでに凡百であることを証明してしまったお前たちには何を期待することもかなわないが。なるほど。孫たちには未来の可能性があり、魔法的奇跡を期待する価値はあり得るというわけか。それをもって100億以上の価値と言ってみせるなら、わからぬでもない。
When Kinzo got in a rage, he wouldn't let anyone talk back, but even so, while yelling by himself, he would sometimes convince himself of something all of his own accord and change his own opinion. That's what this felt like to the siblings. Apparently, even though Kinzo had become absolutely fed up with his shoddy children and had cast them away as being unfit for the inheritance of his title or his fortune, he wasn't so sure about his grandchildren. At this rate, he might say soon that the inheritance would go to his grandchildren instead of the siblings. As the siblings sat in fear of what their fickle and short-tempered father would suddenly think of next, they carefully watched his every move.
考えを少し改めよ。お前たちに我が全てを継承する気は全くない。しかし、孫たちの誰かにその資格があるかどうかを問うのはなかなかに面白いことだ。いつまでも子供だと思っておったが、ひょっとすると私を驚かせるような原石のきらめきを見せてくれるかもしれぬ。そしてそれを期待し試すのはなるほど。我が余生最後の道楽としても捨てがたい。
What did you say? I didn't hear you, sorry.
Oh, solving the epitaph.
Oh, yeah.
さて、これはどうしたものか。
ジョージならお父様の後を継ぐにふさわしいと。
Ava claimed that right away. Natsuko looked like she was about to follow along, but Krause gave her a look telling her to restrain herself so she swallowed her words.
勇ましいでは。では、こうしよう。後宮家の家督と財産のすべてを受け継ぐ資格があるかどうか、孫たちに個別に問おうではないか。
お父様。
しかし、それはお前たちの誰かに間接的に家督を引き継ぐという意味ではない。お前たちにはすでに失望しているのだ。お前たちに与えるものは今何もな。私が問うのは孫たちだ。そして引き継ぐかもしれないのも孫たちだ。それを決して勘違いするな。
お父さんの判断に
同じくだ。親父の決定に従うぜ。なあ、兄貴。
もちろんよ。お父様が賢明な判断をされるとし。
孫たちをどのように試すかは考えよう。そしてそれはお前たちには今さら関係のない話だ。
So get out of here.
当主継承とお前たちはもはや何の関係もないのだから。だからこの場ではお前たちに関係のあるもう一つの話をしようではないか。
The sacrifices?
もう一つの話。
それこそが今宵の、そして後宮家最後の親族会議の本当の理由だ。お前たちに求めるのは議論でも意見でもない。我が儀式に協力を求めるためだ。
儀式？
静かに。お父様がお話をなさっている最中。
Rudolph looks very apprehensive. Rudolph and the rest automatically knitted their brows at the occult-like word ritual. Was he talking about starting a strange ritual involving Beatrice's resurrection again? He was demanding that they help. What in the world was he planning to start? In the past, he had carried out many eccentricities that he called by the same names, such as lighting strange incense and filling the whole mansion with a stench. To the siblings, a ritual was nothing more than one of the aged Kinzo's obnoxious hobbies.
お父さん、儀式とは一体。
私たちに協力できることなら、なんねえ、ローザ。
でも、一体何を？
私が碑文に刻んだ通りの儀式だ。ベアトリーチェを蘇らせ、黄金鏡の扉を開く儀式である。肉体の檻を逃れ、私の指の隙間を嘲笑うようにすり抜けるあの魔女を屈服させる私の最大の秘術だ。そのために13人もの命を生贄に捧げねばならぬがな。 13人もの生贄は容易には集まらん。
Kings of the serial killer?
しかし今宵は親族会議。これだけの大人数が六軒島に集まった。この儀式が行えるのは今日を置いて他にないのだ。
Taken literally, it could only sound as though he was telling them to die as sacrifices for his disturbing ritual. Ridiculous! Was this some kind of metaphor? But they didn't even have a clue. They didn't even have a clue what he was trying to tell them through this analogy. The siblings whispered together, wondering what Kinzo was saying.
Goめんなさい、お父様。どういう意味でおっしゃられているのか分かりかねます。
何が分かりかねるというのか。私は至極単純に話している。ベアトリーチェを蘇らせる儀式のためにこの島にいる人間から13人を選び生贄に捧げようと言っている。何の価値もないお前たちも我が儀式の生贄としてなら大いに役に立てるというわけだ。聞け、これは冗談でも何でもない。我が人生の最後に欲する最後の賭け、最後の儀式である。この島には今13人を超える人間がいる。つまりこの膨大な数の生贄を容易に満たせるだけの頭数が存在するというわけだ。お前たちは我が儀式の生贄とな。
金蔵さん、あんたまさかあの話は本気だったのかね。冗談ではなく。
Unusually for Nanjo, his face changed color and he stood up and shouted, Kinzo has a bomb planted? Oh shit.
He's got a nuke on the island.
It seemed that this wasn't the first time Nanjo had heard all this dark talk about the 13 sacrifices.
すまんな我が友よ。あれは冗談でも何でもない。
There's a bomb planted in the middle of the dining room under the table. He presses it and the room just goes boom.
我が生涯を賭して最後に挑む儀式であり、そう、これはゲームだ。お前たちにとって我が財産を得て島を出ることがゴールならば、それを達する方法は2つしかない。13人の生贄から逃れ見事生き残り、今更ながら碑文の謎を解いて儀式を止めてみせるか、私を殺しこの儀式を止めてみせるか。この2つしかない。
By now it was no longer whispering among those who gathered here, but uneasy commotion. Even the siblings had noticed that Kinzo was beginning to act abnormally. Are you alright in the head?
He's always drinking.
親方様はご明晰であらせられます。悪いけど親父、何を言い出すのかさっぱりだぜ。親父が愛する魔女を蘇らせるためにどんな怪しげな儀式を追っ始めてもそりゃ自由だぜ。親父の趣味なんだからな。だがそいつに巻き込まれて生贄にされるのはまっぴらごめんだぜ。
And making me into haha a sacrifice. It's just not gonna happen.
ルドルフ、お父様の話に口を挟む気？
何言ってんだ兄貴。こんな物騒な話に。はいそうですかでうなず。
Was the ritual Kinzo had mentioned literally the frightening thing it seemed to be, or was it some kind of test to choose a successor? It seemed that Rudolph had taken it at its disturbing face value, but Ava apparently still believed it was something like a trial examination, to find the proper next head. But Kinzo's response to this was clear.
さて、 私からの話、異議も意見も何にも必要はない。4人の不出来なる息子たちがいたというお前たちにとって、これより目の前で起こることはまさに夢、幻、あるいはこの世のものと思えぬ理解に及ばぬ世界だろう。しかしそれこそが我が現実。お前たちという出来の悪き浅い夢は今こそようやく覚めるのだ。さあ、もうゲームは始まっているぞ。これだけいては誰から命を奪えばいいものやら。さらばだ、出来の悪き息子たちよ。
Wait a minute, he just said whose life I should take first, but I thought it was a roulette. I thought it wasn't up to him.
I don't know.
そして生涯でただ一度、そして最後に私の儀式のために役に立て。いでよ、ペンドラゴンの記念兵たちよ。
Oh.
As Kinzo raised his arms high like an opera singer and yelled those words as though towards a packed audience, they are shattered like glass, and the figures of 3 people who hadn't been invited to this island appeared regardless.
Siesta 45, ここに.
45 has 45 written above it? What?
Yeah, I don't know. That's weird.
Siesta 410, ここに.
Siesta 00, ここにであります.
The 3 girls with bizarre forms suddenly appeared behind Kinzo. Where from? When? Who? What? Where? When? How? Who? Why? The humans were thrown off balance, their minds went blank, and because they wasted time with such thoughts, they lost their last chance to survive.
お前たちには6人の射殺を許可。
Nice.
標的は自由だ。攻撃開始。
自由射撃、了解であります。良き標的に感謝。かっこ自由射撃開始。
Initiate unrestricted submarine warfare.
She brings out a machine gun. As 410 scratched the air with her finger, a golden bow appeared in an empty space and its string was pulled back. The golden arrow that had been ready there was fired off without any hesitation, flew around the room, leaving haphazard golden trails everywhere. And from among those sitting at the table at the family conference, it chose Natsui and pulverized the left half of her face.
Nice.
Flesh and deep red blood spattered all around, leaving a massive amount of deep red spatter marks on the relatives' faces and the pure white tablecloth. There was a silence. Despite the massive number of deep red blotches left on the tablecloth, even still, no one could understand why Natsui's head was half smashed, nor why she was hanging her head as though she had dozed off in her chair. And they watched those events in silence. Those sitting on the right-hand side from Natsui were silent for a relatively long time, but those sitting on her left were not, because the people sitting on that side had been shown how her head had been smashed open like a watermelon or a pomegranate and could even see inside her.
Oh, God.
まずは一人、夏日か。最後まで運のない女だ。次。
00、射撃。
In the same way, 00 scratched the empty air to ready her bow and fired. We're witnessing a slaughter here.
Yep.
Just like the golden arrow 410 had released, it flew around and around at high speeds, drawing a convoluted trail after which, as he looked at Natsui in shock, it smashed half of Rudolph's head in the same way, killing him instantly.
Ooh.
This time, everyone did not stop thinking altogether. They realized that a terrible murder had been carried out right in front of them, according to Kinzo's words, and they understood that Kinzo would probably kill again.
So they've gotta kill him if they're not running away.
Shrill screams burst out. Even now, they still didn't know what to do, so they could only keep screaming and flapping their wide-open mouths like goldfish. Get up and run, people! Throw a chair or something! As Ava asked Kinzo that in total shock, Hideyoshi had come to his senses and risen from his chair faster than anyone else, pulled at her arm from behind. But, however, merciless fate's choice for the third sacrifice was Hideyoshi. Just like the two before him, half of Hideyoshi's head was neatly smashed, and the right side of his head, which happened to be facing that direction at the time, was blown away, chunks of its contents thrown everywhere like watermelon or pomegranate. So, still holding Ava, Hideyoshi toppled backwards and fell down. Still held by her beloved husband, Ava fell over backwards with him. Ava screamed, and who could have blamed her? The face she had been looking for had been half lost, and the crushed skull, the squelchy exposed brain, and the crushed jaw were all bare.
Sticky, gooey, mushy, all those adjectives.
続けて撃て残りは3人であるぞお父さんこれは何の真似です
Kraus stood up forcefully and was about to rush Kinzo when Double O blocked him. Despite her slender-looking body, she held back Kraus's body with just the palm of her right hand. He still tried to resist and attack Kinzo, so Double O lifted Kraus up by the collar and twisted it into his Adam's apple with their thumb. It seemed to be very painful, and Kraus was overcome with agony. Not just sharp words finally broke the spell that had holding them down in their chairs, as Goda and Kumasawa made a mad scramble to escape from the dining hall. 410 teleported to that spot, blocking the way. At the sound of Kiri's sharp voice, Goda, in a state of complete confusion, ducked.
As a shotgun.
Then a burst of air rushed above his head.
Oh, yes.
Kiri had taken a big swing of the chair to mow 410 down. But 410, still wearing a contemptuous expression, easily caught that widely swung chair with one hand. From the sleeve of the arm that she had used to catch the chair, something like a shining golden snake appeared. It coiled itself around the chair, and with a huge crunch, it bursted into splinters. It was a fearsome power, far stronger than any vice. And Kira realized that being in front of her, which looked like a girl, was actually a being that surpassed human knowledge and which a human could not even begin to oppose. Her head was filled with a great alarm bell that welled up from inside her. Even with a scene like this before their eyes, Genji, Shannon, and Cannon, the servants permitted to wear the one-winged eagle, continued to stand calmly at attention by the wall, making themselves look very bizarre and eerie. For an instant, Kyrie thought that the source of their calmness was that they were with the enemy and had been guaranteed that they wouldn't be killed. But then... But no sooner had she thought that than the side of Genji's face was blown away before her eyes.
Genji.
45 着弾命中
源氏めこれは運が悪い安らかに眠れ我が友よ
Wow. Imagine seeing your best friend get his head blown out. Oh,
that's
you're just like,
how unfortunate.
That's unfortunate.
我が愛しき魔女復活の重要なる13の鍵の一つとなるのだから
And then proceed to laugh.
The half of Genji's expression that remained was indifferent as ever. He tilted, fell in a heap, and sent a blood-red splatter out across the floor.
Genji-sama.
僕たちなんて所詮は魔女だ。所詮
From the meek and frustrated, no, resigned expressions on Shen and Kenneth's face, you couldn't feel any naive expectation that they would be saved. That's right. Kinzo was, in the truest sense, carrying out these murders at random. In the truest sense, he was killing like it was going to see who was... It was a game to see who was going to be saved and who would be killed.
さて、
Two left to go. 4-0 looked at Kyrie for a second. In that second, Kyrie prepared for her own death. But when she had readied her golden bow in midair, 4-1-0 looked at someone else over Kyrie's shoulder. So, as shamelessly as it was, Kyrie sensed that she had been saved. It was Naja, who was trying to climb out the window.
Yeah.
Again, an ugly sound of something cracking and exploding rang throughout the room. Who was it this time? When Kyrie turned in the direction of the sound, she saw Ava collapse onto her husband's chest, gushing blood like a fountain. And of course, her face was half smashed in just like her husband's. Rip Jessica.
Yeah.
Or no, my bad, Rip George. 410 had mercilessly targeted Ava as she clung to her husband's body, sobbing. Please kill Rosa. Rosa's protests,
I think.
Rosa's protestations weren't reaching Kinzo as he continued to laugh loudly in the blood-spattered dining hall, and nor was she able to lessen Krause's pain as 00 lifted him up by the collar. So Rosa had no choice but to use force. She raised one of the chairs beside her over her head and gave a warning. What are you gonna do, Rosa?
Yeah, what's that chair gonna do too? Good lord.
The chair that Rosa had lifted up swung down at the father who had resigned as a symbol of terror reigned as a symbol of terror for her entire life. It was the greatest and final act of bravery and self-mastery in Rosa's life. Kinzo might have been right. If she had grasped that courage much sooner, her life might have been more free, more unrestrained by anyone else. What?
Someone just got shot.
Then a loud bursting sound, the sound of Rosa's chair fiercely hitting Kinzo. It was not. Still lifting up the chair, she neatly lost half of her head and fell with a thud.
Rip.
While holding Krause up with one hand, 00 had stuck out her other hand towards Rosa. The golden snake released from that arm had constricted Rosa into a helix and chewed a hole through her head.
Lord Goldsmith.
Anyone else feel like dying? After declaring this with indifference, 00 let go of Krause, which she'd been lifting up this whole time. Absolutely hilarious. People dying.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
It was a massacre that happened in an instant. The interior of the dining hall was dirty with blood spatter, and the 6 unlucky victims lay with their heads brutally exposed. Fittingly, it was Kinzo's abnormal laugh alone that echoed in that abnormal space. Oh? When Kinzo called Ronove's name, the demon butler appeared out of thin air, bowing deeply and respectfully.
これはまた派手に散らかされましたよって。
よいわ。我が白昼夢のごとき日々を覚ますにはこの程度の刺激が必要だ。紹介しよう。我が友人であり頼れる執事であり72柱の大悪魔であるロの上だ。
以後お見知りおき。
Okay, so wait a minute. So
What's
all
up?
of what we've seen as Beatrice's furniture is now Kinzo's furniture.
Yeah.
Episode.
For some reason, yes.
Ooh. Why?
I don't know, maybe
Why is that?
Maybe Beatrice is the person that impersonated Beatrice is now impersonating Kinzo?
Well, there's definitely elements of that. I mean, we've never seen him use those crazy eyes before this episode, so...
Uh-huh.
But, like, again, if we're going by the fact that, you know, magic doesn't exist, then all of what we're seeing is probably not even important in the first place. You know?
But somehow people are dying.
Right.
But what are they seeing? What are they seeing that we're not seeing? And what are we seeing that they're not seeing?
Yeah.
What is the difference between what we're seeing and what's actually happening?
What is the cost of lies?
Then all the scenes where there's supposedly magic in play is probably important because if we can figure out what the differences are, we can figure out what's making it look different. And like, what the purpose of it being different is. And that might help us figure things out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Kraus and Kirei, who were still lying down on their backsides, and Nanjo and Koda and Kumasawa could only look up in shock at this middle-aged gentleman who they'd never met before. Only Shen and Cannon seemed to recognize him, and they bowed deeply.
源氏には挨拶が叶いませんでした。せめて苦痛なく役目を終えられたなら良いのですが。
頭部直撃弾にて即死でした。苦痛を味わう暇もありません。
そうですか。結構です。
続けて友を紹介しよう。いでよ。我が友ワルギリア。
Oh, all the furniture's coming out. Once again, the figure, somewhat unknown to the relatives, appeared out of thin air. She appeared in an elegant dress while greeting them gracefully.
召喚を感謝します。親方様、許されるならば、このような血生臭き場に呼び出されたくはありませんでした。
こやつも紹介しよう。我が友であり、頼れる相談役でもあるワルギリアだ。偉大なる有限の魔女であるお前の力を我が儀式に借りたい。その力を貸せ。
お断りしようにも、あなたの強力な召喚霊族下にある身ではそれも叶いません。御意に、親方様。
それにしても恐ろしいお方だ。シエスタの姉妹兵を3人も召喚し、私に加えさらに召喚という能力においてのみとはいえ、お嬢様をもはるかに上回るとは恐ろしい。後ろ宮の地に戦慄を覚えます。
ベアトリーチェ復活の儀式を執り行うために私は召喚師としての全てを尽くすだろう。まだ足りぬな。この度の儀式の完璧なる遂行のためにさらに召喚しよう。
What, the goat demon things?
ペンドラゴンの記念碑に炉の上にワルギリア。まだ呼べるぞ。我が魔力ならまだまだ呼べる。我が召喚に応えよ。72柱が一人ガープよ。
Wow, okay.
ガープをあれまでも権限できるというのですか。
さらにこの島の侵食が進んだということでしょう。私たちが権限できていることです。今さらどんな大悪魔が呼び出せたとしても驚くには値しません。
もはや六軒島は完全に異世界に飲み込まれているということですか。
Everyone's been isekai'd. Everyone has been isekai'd.
I don't think so. That's just what she
Umineko
said.
is an isekai?
No.
All this time.
No. You burst my eardrums. People in the comment section are gonna be raging about that.
No. They'll love it.
さて、私たちはこの舞台を楽しもうではありませんか。今回の主人公はどうやら親方様のようだ。お嬢様とは一味違った脚本に期待しましょう。
As Kinzo strongly concentrated his magical power, a pale blue light gathered in the air, twisted, and the magic circle began to be drawn with a deep red light. Whoa!
Ooh, wow.
Well, hello there!
Hey there. How are you doing?
Then it shattered with the sound like glass, and a new demon could be seen there.
よくぞ我が呼びかけに応えた72柱の大悪魔が一つガープよ。
すごいところに呼び出されたものね。
Is this legal to put on YouTube?
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
No, I'm joking.
この血まみれの部屋を掃除するために私は呼び出されたのかしら。ゴールドスミス。
The literally devilish woman wrapped in a gaudy ominous costume looks at the horrifying scene which should have made her cover her eyes and her mouth twisted into a grin.
そのためだけにあなたを呼び出すとしたらカシミヤのマフラーで雑巾掛けをする。
Oh fuck. Sorry, Regalia.
大悪魔がとうとうこの島に現れてしまうなって。いよいよこの島も幻想に沈むのでしょう。
部屋の惨状よりもこの豪華キャストの方が驚くべきね。シエスタ姉妹が3人もいて、大悪魔ロの上に大魔女マルギリアに私まで。
What's next? The Great Goat Butler?
I think so.
これは何事？ここはパンデモニウム？地獄の演奏会でも始めるつもりかしら。なるほど。そこで指揮棒が震えるのはあなたぐらいしか思いつかないわ。
そなたにはベアトリーチェを蘇らせる我が儀式遂行のための進行役として協力してもらう。我が召喚契約に依存はないな。
依存も何も。天下の大魔女ベアトリーチェを刺激した伝説の大召喚師ゴールドスミス教の召喚霊族に私が抗えるわけもない。協力はするわよ。もちろん見合ったお題もいただくけどね。で最初の仕事は
第一の番を免れた間抜けどもを捕らえ、幸いにもここにはまだ7人いるではないか。南條にシャノンにカノン、ゴーダに熊沢、キリエにクラウス。ほう、この7人を丸々生贄に捧げれば第二の番以降を実行するタイミングが訪れるまで生贄の檻に放り込んでおくがよかろう。
カシミヤの雑巾了解したわ。
As Gab shrugged her shoulders, she looked at Kraus, who was still down on his butt. She glared. Then she snapped her fingers and Kraus was swallowed up by the floor, as though a round pitfall had opened up there.
Jeez.
There was no hole in the floor, but it had certainly looked as though Kraus had been swallowed up by a floor or a hole and disappeared. Searching for her next prey, Gap's gaze crossed curious. What?
She made an exclaimed noise, but look at her expression. She looks totally uninterested in what's going on right now.
Yeah. Kira jumped back as though repelled. Her instinct was correct, because in the place where she had been until a second ago, a round, jet black hole had appeared, the same kind that had swallowed up Kraus. However, before she could catch her balance, another pitfall appeared and swallowed her up. Even Kira had no way of eluding Gap's capture. You could even say Gap was making some gaps in the floor.
Just get out. Just leave.
Bye, Nanjo.
That was pretty funny.
Snap when her fingers once again. The shocked Nanjo disappeared into the floor.
That was a great animation.
Another snap of the fingers. And 4 when all let out a short yelp and jumped back. What? Why are you getting hurt? Oh, this time a slightly larger pitfall had opened, taking in both Shen and Ken, who had been standing in the line by the door. But because 410 had jumped away from the door, the way was no longer blocked. Instinctively aware that they would be next, Goda dashed out through that door. Of course, Kumasawa was hot on his heels and ran off at lightning speed. Kumasawa running at lightning speed. As Gop snapped her fingers over and over, round jet-black pitfalls opened one after another behind them, chasing them. However, they did nothing but drive the desperately fleeing pair forward and couldn't swallow them up. Goda and Kumasawa escaped in a matter of seconds.
鈍ったわ。2人逃がした。ご安心を。逃走目標を捕捉中であります。
データリンクよし。にひ。狙撃しますか？
いいえ、それは許可できませんよ。
Gop has some gaps in her dress.
貴重な生贄です。親方様の許可を待つよう。
大ゴールドスミス卿、指示を待ちます。
第二の晩の訪れにはまだ早いと我が魔力の源泉がささやいておる。今はならぬ。好きにさせてやれ。どうせこの島からは逃げられぬわ。
親方様の魔力の源泉とはすなつまりは気まぐれというわけですか？
そうとも言うかもしれぬ。ガープ、ご苦労であった。儀式はこのまま着実に進めよ。さて、それを次は我が孫たちだ。次期当主たる資格があるかどうかを試す。はてさて、どうやってその資質を確かめたものか。
その資格があると判断されたなら、ベアとの復活を断念されるおつもりで？
無論だ。にもかかわらず試す。女の身にはわからぬであろうな。この矛盾、我が狂気など。
相変わらず男ってどこか変ね。リスクを遊ぶという概念わかりかね。
おやおや、あなたはそういうのが大好きかと思っておりましたが。
もちろんよ。男に危険なリスクと一緒に恋をささやかれたらキュンキュンしちゃうわ。
Looks like she has some gaps in her personality.
ただしイケメンに限る。
Only if he's a stud.
お静かに。死後は慎むように。
実にかしましい奴らだ。だが少なくとも退屈はせん。これだから召喚は愉快なのだ。そなたらには我が儀式のノイズとリスクの天秤の片側を担ってもらうぞ。その働きに期待している。
Six brutally murdered corpses lay in the dining hall, which was tarnished by red and gruesome decoration. By now, it was impossible to imagine that 13 people had been sitting there in an orderly manner just moments ago. Kinzo lined up the demons of renown and their subordinates, loudly declared the beginning of an overwhelming night of mass murder, and swore to himself that he would certainly revive Beatrice and open up the door to the Golden Land. By the way, where'd those people go that sunk into the floor?
It went to the cage of sacrifices.
Oh.
いよいよ開幕
It's been a while since we've seen her too.
Yeah.
金蔵め、相変わらず派手を好む男よ。付きまとわれればしつこいことこの上なき男も、舞台の上ではこれほどまでに映えるというのか。
くそ、相変わらず黒い殺し方ばかりしや。頭部半壊だ。てめえら魔女ども悪魔どもの悪趣味には相変わらずうんざりさせられるぜ。
It killed them fast though.
Yeah.
頭部半壊。なるほど。これまでのゲームで
Maybe
我が儀式のノイズとリスクの天秤の片側を担ってもらうぞ。その働きに期待している。
Maybe
これまでのゲームで我が儀式のノイズとリスクの天秤の片側を担ってもらうぞ。
Maybe
一番理想的な殺し方がこれだと気づいたわけね。
理想的？このひでえ殺し方がどう？
Oh, hello.
実に理想的じゃない。一番最初のゲームを思い出してみるといい。
お前はさっき登場しやがった。新しい悪魔とかいうやつか。くそ。また魔女の侵食が進んで、ろくでもないやつが増えたというわけなのか。
The more the witch's corrosion progresses, the more Rekenjua tilts towards the other world. That's why strange people keep appearing one by one. The island is closed off by the typhoon, and not only can no humans leave it, but new humans can't appear either. But the more the corrosion progresses, the more witches and demons can appear without limit, increasing one by one. By now, perhaps there are more demons than humans among the characters appearing in this insane tale. Their numbers might be precisely the figure that representing this mad corrosion. Yeah, I'm sure that's true. And not only are their numbers being affected by the corrosion, their fashion sense apparently is as well. If the corrosion advances any further and even more weird people appear, just what in the world will they be wearing? It's too scary for me to imagine. Ah, seriously, give me a break. Please, no more of these weird-ass people.
そうはいかんぞ。まだまだ増やすぞ。人間どもの語るクローズドサークルなる間抜けなルールをわらわがいくらでも怪我してやろうぞ。よく来たな、ガープよ。
お久しぶりね、リーチェ。お元気だった？というか随分元気そうじゃない。あなた若返った？私が知ってる頃より2、300歳は若々しいわ。ああ、なるほど。
The demon grandfather had summoned and introduced as Gap, took a glance at me and then grinned as though she'd figured something out on her own. Honestly, I felt that the smile was repulsive.
レアとの友人らしいな。ってことは、輪をかけてろくでもねえやつってわけだ。しかし、クローズドサークルがなんとかって言ってやがったが、どういう意味だ？
今の六軒島のような外界から断絶された場所で起こる連続殺人ミステリーはクローズドサークルとも呼ばれる外界からの断絶、つまりは閉じられた輪の世界というわけ。
It's like a circle that's closed. Thanks, Angie.
That's a very good explanation.
にもかかわらず、新しい容疑者候補が次々に輪の外から追加されていくのはミステリーの作法に反する。
Which means none of these people exist.
つまり人間とミステリーに対する魔女の冒涜ってつもりなんでしょう。
It's a deconstruction.
なるほど。賢い子みたいね。そういう子は好きよ。舌が甘くてとろけるから。
Oh, what?
Interesting.
I like those kind of kids too.
Yeah, this is okay. Let's keep moving here, please. Gross.
デビリッシュプリティの最新作、ジャック・ザ・リッパークリスマスブラッド。人間界の田舎娘には理解できないセンスでごめんね。
通気性がいいのだけは理解できたわ。ついでに頭にも切れ目を入れたわ。脳みその通気性も良くなるからね。
Keep right.
ガープは魔界の流行にいつも敏感でな。しかし今年の流行りも実に大胆だ。わらわも一度ぜひ取り寄せてみるとしよう。
Oh, please do. I mean, what?
リーチェにはアリグレがおすすめね。アリス&ザ・グレーブヤード。今度一緒に666にお洋服見に行きましょうよ。
They have a shop named 666.
たまには魔界にもいらっしゃい。
This is so.
このゲームを終えたらぜひそうしようぜ。
So what?
This is all just so ridiculous.
Yes.
それにしてもリーチェの対戦相手のお二人はなかなか可愛い。この子なら頭部半壊死体にどういう意味があるか察しがつきそうね。わかる？お嬢ちゃん。
さっきこいつは一番最初のゲームを思い出せと言ったらどういう意味だ？
言葉通りの意味よ。一番最初のゲームを
第一の晩を思い出した。大人たちの死体が魔法陣の描かれた園芸倉庫の中で発見された時のことよ。覚えてる？
Some faces were half smashed, some faces were completely smashed. Episode 1, The First Twilight. 6 people, Kraus, Rudolph, Kyrie, Rosa, Shannon, and Goda had died, and each of them had had their head pulverized.
あの時、あそこには2種類の死体があったわ。
Oh.
それは顔面を粉砕された死体と、
Yes.
そこに粉砕された死体の2種類。
This is important.
そう。顔面粉砕はルドルフ、キリエ、ローズ、ゴーダの4人。側頭部粉砕はクラウス、シャノンの2人だ。わらわもあの時点では気まぐれに生み出した2種類より残忍な死体である前者の方がわらわにとってむしろ不利であることに気づいた。
Because they could be body swaps.
Right, yeah. Because he could argue about it.
そうか。そういうことか。
That's right. The smashed faces might look atrocious, but they made it hard to confirm the identity of the person. For example, at that time, Uncle Kraus and Shannon had their heads only half smashed. That itself was, of course, atrocious, but because half of their faces remained, it was easy to confirm their identity. But Dad and the other 3 were different. Because his face had been completely destroyed, even I, his son, could only guess that it had to have been Dad because of his clothes and the like. In short, it remained unclear until the end whether that really was Dad's corpse.
第1のゲームの時にも、もしも推理バトルが行われてたなら、俺は多分、親父たちの死体を本人確認不能のため、偽装死体の可能性もあると主張していたかもしれない。何しろ、あのゲームの時には、ベアとは一切赤での発言もしていない。
お上手よ。それでせ、偽装死はミステリーの基本の一つ。
So basically, we have 2 more confirmed non-killers, and that would be Goda and Shannon. Were those the 2, or no? It was Kraus and Shannon.
Yeah.
Because those 2 had their faces half smashed.
たとえ一緒に検証させたとしても、犯人とグルを疑われれば、その結果は信用できない。つまり、確実な死を保証できない死体は、常に魔女サイドを不利にするということ。
あらゆる死体について偽装死を疑い、その後の事件の犯人に想定することができる。バトラの嫌う手だけど、魔女に対する最も初歩的な一手も。
ああ、そうだ。だからベアとは赤を使い出した。赤き真実で完璧な検証を行うようにな。
そういうことだ。本来なら。
Yeah, I think it's almost over though.
わらわはすぐにでも赤き真実にてこの度の6人の死亡を確定させるところである。しかし知っての通り、今回のわらわの戦法はこれまでとは正反対に赤き真実の兵糧攻めといったところ。そなたが反撃の拠り所にしようとする以上、わらわは容易には赤を使わぬ。必要最低限の赤にてたった1箇所だけほころびさせればいい。つまりわらわは究極的に言えば、そなたのうちの一つをたった1回の赤き真実にて打ち破るだけで良いわけだ。
散々俺をいたぶってきやがったくせに、俺が反撃に使い出したら今度は引っ込めやがったってわけだ。ふざけやがって。
とにかく赤を使いたくバトラをいじめてやりたい。しかし赤を使わずに確実なる死を保証するにはどうすればよいの。わらわは悩みに悩んだわけだ。そのアイデアをガープがくれた。実に簡単な方法だったのだ。
当たり前なことを言ったらリーチがひらめいただけよ。私は誰にでも容易に身元の判別と完全なる死が理解できる死体を用意すればいいと言っただけ。
つまりはその2つを合体させた。身元の判別に必要な顔と完全なる死の象徴である魂の器たる頭部のこの2つを左右ぴったりきれいに合体させ、この頭部半壊死体がパーフェクトであるという答えが出たわけだ。
お前絶対2色パンとか2色アイスが好きだろ。
What? I'll bet you love...
Two-flavored bread a thing?
Two-flavored ice cream?
Well, I mean, two-flavored ice cream is a thing, but like...
Oh, yeah. Two-flavored bread? Huh.
I've never heard of that before.
いずれにせよ、たとえ頭部が反壊していたとしても、現時点では彼らが死んだとみなすべきではないよ。
分かってる。ベアートがもったいぶって赤での宣言を拒む以上、全ては疑ってかかるべきだ。もちろん、シエスタの太もも姉ちゃんたちの魔法殺人だって。
Sexy ass Chester face.
本当に慎重になったこと。最初のゲームの頃だったなら何でもかんでも鵜呑みにしてくれていたのにね。公的書はこうでなくては面白くないというもの。今は赤がないことを幸いに、自由な想像を広げ、好きに推理を重ねるがいい。一番最後の一番美味しいところでバッサリと赤き真実にて叩き切ってくれようぞ。
I had
Cut. You had what?
I had an interesting thought when Kinzo said that he was going to test everyone.
What was that?
I was wondering if what we're seeing with Battler right now is actually a representation of Kinzo's test of him to see if he can become the successor.
What, the whole thing is just a test from Kinzo?
Yeah, but see, I don't know how, because I feel like Kinzo's the type of person to use like logic and reasoning as the test to be the successor, because earlier he was talking about like, you know, you've got to be shrewd and you've got to be cunning to be the successor, and you've got to, you know.
Yes.
So it kind of makes sense that he would test Battler in that way, and this entire VN is about logic and reasoning. You know.
So this entire VN could be a test for Battler.
That's, yeah. It's a working theory. I'll see if I can put more into it.
But how would that go with the whole two-sided themes and the whole theme about without love it cannot be seen?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'll have to work on it.
Oh yeah, we'll have to go back through some episodes and take a look at some stuff and get some stuff prepared for the video we're gonna do at the end of this chapter. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this quite a long chapter or a long part today. And it's pretty late, so we're gonna call it here. But we'll see you guys for the next chapter. Adios.